That's why we say when you're communicating with the forces in nature, Abosom, those who regulate order in all of creation, they are the embodiments of divine order, the spirits that animate the sun, moon, stars, planets, oceans, rivers, earth, all these things operating in harmony with order at all times. These are spiritual forces that operate order in creation. When you get in alignment with them, you get in harmony with order, and you're a harmonious individual. You get out of alignment with them because you're following the culture of the white snarl spring. They tell you to, hey, you should eat this or engage in this kind of behavior, or you should do this or forget about this. Then you're out of harmony with order. And then you create discordance within your life. When we want to align with the forces in nature, the embodiments of divine order, so we can get back on track. And the Nsamanfo, our ancestral spirits, who show us how to do that based on our specific clans individually, communicating with them, we do that to align our spirits, SUSUW, SUSUW, with our Kra, divine consciousness, soul divine consciousness. We say when we link or relink our spirits to our souls, we have realigned ourselves with divine order. We have thereby purified our thoughts, intentions, and actions. That's prerequisite for our harmonious functioning in the world. The Abosom and Nsamanfo are key to this realignment and purification, for they utilize the Ankh yoke, and we were talking about that deity holding the Ankh. They will use that Ankh to project their specific energy onto the person. So you see the person standing there to receive the energy from the divinity. They utilize the Ankh to wield or project that energy like a talisman. Their energy moves into that Ankh structure, and it's moving through that loop, and it generates an electromagnetic field based on their energy, and they project it to the person so they can be bathed by the energy of that particular force in nature, so they can realign themselves with nature. Now, so that's what you're seeing when you see these, representations. Again, Tahuti is a divinity, a spiritual force in creation. Just like you don't see the air, you don't see heat in the room, you can feel heat in the room, but you don't see it. You can have two magnets on a table and they can push each other around, the electromagnetic fields. You don't see, somebody said, draw a picture of magnetism. It's an invisible force that regulates everything on Earth. But you can't draw a picture of magnetism. You could draw some wave lines to represent magnetism, but magnetism is invisible. It's an unseen force that regulates everything in creation. The deities, unless you're clairvoyant, they're spiritual forces that animate the various features of creation. They are, quote unquote, invisible. In the murals and so forth, we'll draw pictures of them based on their attributes and sacred colors and so forth. But if you saw a physical person standing there, you would see them doing this, and nothing would be next to them because it's an invisible force. So that's what you're looking at here. But we're talking about the origin of the common meditative posture. You see all these different divinities seated with their knees up and so forth in the common seated meditation posture and so forth. Doesn't come from India. The cross-legged lotus position is often used as a representation of quote-unquote yoga. So-called lotus posture, as well as the most common posture shown above, have their roots in ancient Afuraitkaitnit, Africa. So look at the scribe Neb Merutef. And he has a little roll, papyrus roll and so forth, rolled out and so forth. He's seated. He has his legs crossed, studying and so forth, taking instruction. Who is he taking instruction from? The An or Anan is the baboon, who is a sacred animal totem of the male divinity of divine law and balance, Tahuti. We just saw Tahuti up here. The male deity of divine wisdom is Tahuti. He's called Abe and Akan. He's called Orunmila in Yoruba, as well as Ifa, Fa in Vodun. But one of his animal totems, one of his messengers, is the deity, the god, Anan, who takes the sacred. Sometimes he'll take the form of a male. Sometimes he will take the form of a baboon. That's the sacred animal totem or messenger of the divinity. Now, patron deity of scribes. Neb-Meru-Tep is a scribe. So what are we really looking at here? If it was an actual person sitting there and the divinity is there, you would see a person sitting there with their legs crossed, and you wouldn't see anything else in the room because the deity is invisible. That's just like an ancestral spirit is invisible unless you're clairvoyant and can see them. And many of us, we could see them when we were children. We see them move across the room or out of the corner of our eye and so forth. The more you engage the ritual process, the more clearly you will be able to see them as well as the deities. But if it was a living person sitting there, you would see somebody sitting there with the legs crossed. Nobody else is in the space, and they're communicating. This is not just a sculpture of him sitting next to a baboon. It's actually him meditating, engaged in SUSUW or SUSUW, which means to reflect upon the self. And he's communicating with the deity. He's meditating to the divinity. When you see these kinds of sculptures, he's meditating to a force in nature. So we're not just sitting with our legs crossed and focused on the void or the abyss. That's not what real meditation is. We have a specific focus, either a divinity or an ancestral spirit of our spirit genetic clans. The whites in our offspring can't communicate with any divinities. They don't have spiritually cultivated ancestresses and ancestors. So they'll tell you, meditation is about focusing on the formless or unformed or non-formed reality and nonsense like that. So we say Neb-Meru-Tep is ritually communing with this divinity. And this is one of those specific baboon species you find in ancient Kemet, came from Eritrea and south of Kemet in Sudan and so forth. Sacred animal totem, representative of the elders and elderesses. But this is the way they sit. They represent the Shepsu, the venerable ancestors and ancestresses, and even you can see in the face, and this is an actual picture of a baboon and so forth. So you can see they look very close to human beings and so forth, and they are representative and messengers of the ancestral spirits, this particular form of baboon and so forth. This is why you see them in ancient Kemet, and you see they take the common meditative posture. And so you see the various deities seated in those postures.